Welcome to Marathon Champions, the podcast where running legends Benji Durden, Bill Rogers, and Ron Tabb share their timeless wisdom on marathon training and inspire listeners with their wealth of experience. These champions continue to impact the running world today.
So this morning we've got an outstanding guest, Deena Kastor, and it's going to be wonderful to get a chance to talk with her.
Yeah.
So how are you
So
doing?
Great, doing great.
Did
Yeah.
you run Sydney? Did you get your final star there?
I got my seventh star. My sixth star I got in Berlin a few years ago, but I did go to Sydney and I'm going to Cape Town this May. So super excited.
So is Cape Town going to be, you think, the next one?
I think so. I'm not privy to knowing what they needed to cross off on their checklist of things to get done in order to become a star. But they did say that if you run this year and they do become a major, that it's a provisional star. I think just to help people out from the finances of planning those trips and
Well, yes, that's weird because I ran Tokyo back in the 80s before they even had this, and there were two Tokyos, and they alternated, but they both considered it Tokyo, and they said that would count as a star.
oh,
And it was before the stars even started.
right.
Um, did you ran the World Championships marathon?
Um,
Did you?
yes, but not this year or not.
No, but that's a star. You
Yeah.
finished it. So you I won't ever get all the stars, I don't think. I don't think it's possible. One, I've not, you know, I'm able to still run a marathon, but traveling to them is not likely to happen. I'm not going to get to Sydney, I doubt that. Haven't done Chicago.
I highly recommend it. I thought Sydney was spectacular, and we made a huge family trip out of it. The food and the culture, the people were so nice there. I just loved it.
I love
But
to run.
I'm jealous. I'd like to have had the stars,
Yeah,
all of the stars.
yeah. Sydney was a really great place to run. I ran there in '83 and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we had been there, my husband and I, 25 years ago for the 2000 Olympic Games, and we were like, if we had to live anywhere else in the world, this would be the only place that we would come. We loved Sydney so much. But we travel the world and there's no place like home. Sydney made us think, well, maybe we could live somewhere else. We loved it. And we got that same feeling when we were back there earlier or late last year. It was just so welcoming. And the Aussies take event management and celebration to the next level.
Are you just now collecting marathons? Or I mean, are you done basically competing? Or are you still competing any?
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I just prepare enough to be ready to go the distance, but mostly an
Mhm.
ambassador for the events and for my sponsor, ASICS. I've been with them for 26 years, so feel grateful that they have been with me through all the phases of my career.
Yeah, that's a unique situation. I think I was with Nike, I want to say 8 years.
Wow. Yeah.
So, Dina, you're pretty good friends with Jan Lester
Oh,
then.
I love Jan.
Yes,
Yeah, I
Jan
was just
is.
emailing her back and forth this past week. Yeah,
Well, tell her I said hello.
I
She's
sure will.
fantastic.
You
Yeah.
know,
So,
we all know Jan.
Yeah, and she adores you. I love having conversations with her because she just so easily brings people into a conversation, names into a conversation. So she's fun and just has such a knowledge of the sport and the history, really knows how to communicate it to every day.
Speaking of history, have you seen the shirt with the names on it? It's women's marathoners basically, and it
Oh yeah.
starts off with Bobby Gibb, and you're down there about two-thirds of the way down.
Yeah, that's so sweet.
It's you know, it's interesting in my mind. I was talking to Amy yesterday about this. We've done several, women with our little podcast here, and they have all had hurdles to get to where they were. It was not easy even to begin competing, and we've never had that discussion with the men. I mean, we've developed to become runners, but it
Yeah.
was never an issue, and and I don't know how many people realize how hard it was for women to become athletes. Do you have a feel for that yourself?
I do have a feel for it only because I have had the great privilege of having wonderful women come before me who have educated me. They've told their stories. I'm talking about Bobby Gibb and Catherine Switzer and Nina Kusick and Joan Benoit Samuelson. I love sitting at a table with them, like hours long dinners, and listening to their stories of what they had to do to get women and running to be an acceptable sentence. And so I feel the privilege of them as storytellers, not just pioneers of the sport. And to be honest, I don't really feel like I have had any backlash or that I've been treated any different than the men in the sport, thanks to those women. I have always competed for equal prize money. I've been a professional athlete since 1996. And I can't speak to contracts and whether my contract was equal to a man of my caliber at the time because those are have disclosures in them that we can't discuss the figures. But I have made a great living in this sport. I have felt like I've gotten every competitive opportunity that I've sought to take part in. I do have a 14-year-old daughter, and she competes in a different sport. She is a free ride a skier. And this summer, she went down to this in 2025 in the summertime. She went to Chile to compete in a competition. She was there for a little more than a week. And in her competition, she got third place. It was her first international podium, and I felt so proud of her. And she texted first to say she got third, and she called right after the awards and said, "Oh my gosh, I got hair product and makeup." And I'm like, "Oh, they must really know you," because she spends a lot of money in some of those big box makeup stores. And I said, "Oh, they must really know you." And she said, "But mom, the guys got goggles and new skis and helmets." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And so she ended up, I didn't make a fuss about it, but she ended up saying something to the organization, and they were so mortified at the optics of what that was, that the person that brought her down there said, "I will personally buy her new goggles and helmets." I'm like, "That's not really the point, but maybe you can make this a little more equal. The point is making this a little more equal, like either give everyone hair products and makeup or give everyone goggles and helmets." And so I thought it was super interesting that here I was in my 50s having competed thanks to these amazing women for equal prize, but here's my daughter in 2025 getting makeup and hair products. So I realized that it's not the norm, but thankfully we just had amazing women pioneers in this sport that fought so diligently for that. And I have to say that not just for women in sports, but then professionalizing the sports. All the people, Steve Bosley of the Bank of Boulder, being able to help professionalize the sport. Steve Prefontaine, the list goes on to people that really represented running in a professional way to professionalize it for the rest of us to make a healthy living out of it. So there are so many people in the sport to thank for where we are today, but my daughter made me realize that we have a
It's
long
not
way to
over.
go.
The battle
Global.
is still there. The
Yeah.
battle is still there.
Yeah.
Bosley came along after the athletes, though.
Yes.
We had to drag him into it.
Yeah.
And part of that it came from the boycott in 1980. We had a number of male runners because at 1980 the women weren't yet running marathons, and
Yeah.
as in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And we'd had a development camp in Colorado Springs, and I think there was like 8 or 9 of us, and actually 2 of us at that development camp ended up making the team in 80. But in that we were doing some runs late 79. It was August. It wasn't that late, August of 79. And we started talking about the fact that we needed a runners union. And then in early 80, it was obvious that we were not going to go to the games. And we started thinking in terms, okay, if the games can be taken away this easily, we need to become openly professional.
Right.
And that was one of the triggers that started it all. But yeah, and then, 84 finally. And even though there was a marathon, it was still 3,000 meters was the track limit, which I thought was insane.
Right.
And cross country, it's just now becoming sort of equal in cross country for women, which is also still insane. I mean, I don't know. I wonder sometimes why they think women are not capable of doing what they obviously are capable of doing. I mean, your competitive marathons, I looked at them. Your slowest competitive marathon back when is 1 second slower than my first marathon. So, it's, I mean, there are many races you would have beat me.
Right. I mean, I get that because now I'm looking at the top 10 list here as an American record holder for 19 years, and now I'm barely on the top 10 list. So
Well,
time
yeah,
does have a way of of doing that to us. But I think I mean, obviously it's training methodologies that change, it's shoe technology, it's professionalizing the sport so you can actually make a living instead of taking time off to make a living so you can fund the habit of traveling and racing. So there's so much that goes into it, but the sport keeps finding a way to elevate, which keeps us engaged and super excited.
yep.
So, what did your training look like when you were in high school, then on to college? Because I saw that you went to, or I know that you went to school at Arkansas and you ran for John McDonnell. And then when did you begin having Olympic aspirations?
I in 1984, I was sitting on the carpet of my parents' living room watching Joan Benoit Samuelson run. Catherine Switzer was doing the broadcast,
Mhm.
the Olympic broadcast, and I didn't really understand the significance of that being the first ever women's Olympic marathon, but I could
How
tell by the tone. What?
how old were you in 84?
I was 11.
11. Yeah,
I could
okay.
tell by the tone that this was super significant. This was an American winning on American soil right down the street from the living room with which I was sitting. And it was so inspiring. I became a runner later that year. I played soccer and softball and ice skated, but I became a runner later that year and really fell in love with the sport. I was lucky that I was in middle school and I was lucky to have a coach from middle school up into through high school that really emphasized the joy of running. We might go on 10-mile runs. We did 400 repeats on our dirt track before it became synthetic after I left. But I feel like I worked hard, but the main thing was that we played. We would go into Malibu Creek State Park and steal boats in front of people's houses and paddle along the shores, trying to tip each other over when we were supposed to be on a 6-mile run. And we'd come back drenched and just say we jumped in the lake to cool off after our run. Like we goofed off. We ran to get milkshakes and sat there until we saw the boys come back, and then we'd suck down our milkshakes and jump in behind them to go back to the school. So we goofed off and we had fun. But that team aspect and the joy of running was so emphasized in those early years that has been what I've leaned into.
What
Yeah.
did you, okay, so you mentioned that you were doing 10-mile runs. Was this in high school, middle school?
Yeah, it
That's
was in high school and it
was
was
that your longest run?
the
10,
longest, and it would
okay.
it would happen maybe once a season. That was like what we were building up to. But I would say I ran between 30 to the highest week was probably 50 miles.
And that
But
was by your senior year?
yeah, but that wasn't consistent, right? You just like build up to that and maybe you'd get to it on a week where you were able to fit in all of your workouts and make it to practice without having a dentist appointment or, all the things that a family trip, whatever, come up in high school. So it was mostly like it was a program, and Coach Bill Dooley was really great at that. He produced Brian Dameworth, who was a Foot Locker national champion. So a fantastic coach. And then I went, I think my highest finish at the National Cross Country Championships was fourth or sixth, but I was a 5-time state champion between cross country and
You were
track.
third at the U.S. championships in '90.
And you ran Foot Locker in San Diego same time Meb did, didn't you?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, yeah, because you knew that I coached Meb at one
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, and
Yes.
by the way, thank you for the autograph poster
Yeah.
so, that he got for me.
Yes,
So,
we have plenty of mutual friends in this sport, and so fortunate that we just have such a circle of inspiration to draw from all of the people that have touched our lives.
some of the questions I'm asking though, I'm coaching a girl here in
Yeah.
Florida. She was ranked number one in the state all season long. She had the fastest. She ran 17:02 early in the season, and then she got mono. So it ended her season there. And I'm a very conservative coach. So a lot of the questions I'm going to ask are kind of really directed towards helping me be a
Yeah.
better coach and helping young ladies because I coach several young talented ladies.
Ron, I'm
So
like, pinch me. Is Ron Tab actually asking me advice?
Well,
yes,
I mean, part of it, though, he sees who is successful, and he wants to know, okay, was there anything behind their success that I can, as a coach, use?
yeah.
And I do the same thing. I mean,
Right.
I'm not coaching anymore, but I coached for a long time, and you always want to try to pay attention, and if you don't know everything, and if you can learn something, do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I listen, Deena, you can offer so much advice to these young kids. I mean, your experience, I mean, it's incredible. And so, yeah, I keep this young lady, her name's Jaslyn. She's she probably would have run between 16:30 and 16:40 had she not gotten sick. She the first five meets that she ran this season, she set course records in each one, winning by just 2 to 3 minutes each race.
Which is really wild when you look at like the history of those courses, right? Of all of the great names that have
Exactly. Yeah.
taken part in the history of hosting cross country meets. So that's really extraordinary.
But I don't have her doing anything longer than 7 miles for her training runs.
Yeah.
And she's a senior. She's going to University of Florida next year. So I've been very conservative. She's like you said, you played soccer. Well, she was last year as a junior. She was playing soccer. This year, she has committed herself completely to running.
Yeah.
But like I said, I've been very conservative, keeping her mileage typically between 30 and 35 miles a week. Longest run that we do is 7, and we take 1 day off a week. So would that be similar to what you might have been doing when you were in
Yeah,
school?
absolutely. And my mileage got close to 50 a couple of times my junior and senior year because in the base training, I was doing morning runs with a friend, and my dog. And so that was really bringing my mileage up just to like get fit for the season. But with someone with mono, I would be very skeptical of adding more for doing a morning run. I think Coach V Hill, my first professional coach and greatest mentor, just
Mhm.
taught me to be insatiable, right? Have conversations, learn from like always keep learning about the sport, about life, about being a parent, about like any role that you play, just keep learning. And so I feel really, really grateful for that mentorship. I never realized in high school that it wasn't just time in my running shoes. It was every decision I made from waking up in the morning to going to sleep at night. Is it making me a better runner? Is it making me a better person? Is it making me a better student? I didn't really get that. It took me in a college education and meeting Coach Vigil to understand that all these things can be built simultaneously, but every decision you make in the day has to count for something. So choose wisely. And he didn't make it like this big pressure, like that every decision came with such immense pressure. It was like a game, like, okay, I could choose this or this. How's that going to play out? Okay, I'm going to choose this because it is a privilege to work towards my goal, not a sacrifice to leave the party early, right? I'm going to leave early and get a good night's sleep because I really care about that long run in the morning. And so I think in high school we could get so run down and pulled in so many directions, from the stress of our of getting good grades, the stress of doing well in our sports, the stress that comes on us socially. These are all really big factors that can deplete us in a lot of unassuming ways. And so stepping back and looking at the big picture, not just the program, but how that program fits into the life and the personal stress that someone puts on themselves, is really important to take a look at. So peeling back and seeing what parts might have made her run her immune system down to acquire mono.
Mhm.
Because I would imagine, like many of us runners, she's type A and wants to succeed in everything that she's doing.
Yes.
And that's a lot of pressure for a high school. I have a high school freshman right now, and I just observe all the pressure she puts herself under, from her hair being perfect to her her socks being like tucked in just perfectly. Like everything has to be just so, because you don't want to give an inch for anyone to make fun of you. So it's just a lot of pressure at that age, and it's no wonder that kids deal with emotional problems or depression or get run down immune systems because of all those pressures that they're bombarded with.
You also have going on the physical changes. I mean, where your hormones are changing,
Hormonal, absolutely.
and
Well
as
said,
well as
Ben.
the body is growing, and all of these things are taking away from your ability to just be a person in some ways.
That is so true.
Have
And
either one
I
of
think we
you,
forget about the hormone. I mean, that is a big change in adolescence, where and I think it doesn't really slow down until your mid 20s, where your body is going through all these physical changes because of the hormones.
Benji, I'm 52 years old. That should have been the first thing that I said, was that there are hormone changes, because simultaneously I'm going through
Yeah,
some
you're going
changes
to
hot
the other
flash?
end.
myself.
And I can appreciate what you're saying, because of going through radiation therapy for my prostate cancer, I had to go and drop my testosterone, so I had hot flashes. So I know
Right.
all about it.
Right.
Um,
But yeah, it's difficult to, because, and also the other thing is, everybody in high school develops, I shouldn't say everybody, but there's a lot of differences in the developments. I mean, we'll see, some kids are almost fully developed, and some
Yeah.
other kids, I was in high school and I wasn't really that well developed, but I had peers that were, I had one peer that was already getting gray hair.
Yeah.
It's so,
Yeah.
and that puts pressure psychologically as
Absolutely. You don't want to mature too quickly, and you don't want to mature too late. You want to be right in between so that you're
and you don't have a choice. It's not
no.
something you can choose. It just is happening, and you're just flowing along in this river of life, and you're trying to reach out and change things, but some of those things can't be changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
have either one of you ever coached an athlete coming off of mono? Because this is completely new to me, and I'm trying to be very careful about coming back too soon.
Well, I never coached high school. I all of my, I was just an adult coach, and so I had difficulties with a couple of athletes that had eating disorders, and that was a problem. But as far as mono, I don't believe I ever encountered that.
Yeah, my husband has, and first and foremost, it's them working with a physician as well, but a physician that understands athletics, and not just someone that's like, you're on bed rest for 2 months, um, but also looking at workload, stress, nutrition, and sleep. I feel like those are really things that you can just make sure, like every day, just have a box. I have her have Jaslyn have a box, like, how's my nutrition? Did I get a lot of really good, wholesome, rich foods in? How, and like energy dense, right? Like nuts and things that have dense amounts of energy to them so that you're really fortifying yourself and keeping your energy stores up as opposed to depleted. Looking at sleep, making sure 9 and 10 hours of sleep. If that means going to bed an hour, 2 hours earlier, like start with 20 minutes and then add another 20 minutes, like just trying to get that critical sleep in so that your body's cortisol levels go down and human growth hormone is released in a natural way. And then really just like self-analysis, like what gave me stress today? How can I mitigate that? Really looking to get that balance right and getting it right forever, right? Whether you have mono or not, those are really good benchmarks to look at for anybody to be able to be vital and enthusiastic and successful at anything they're trying to do.